The Forsaken Heir. Previous episodes are available on playlist. A link is given in the video description. Episode 9. At this time, Solomon said, "Everyone, stay calm. Mr. Jinghai is also considering the development of our metaphysical world. Before, everyone was scattered, but now we are organized, formed an alliance, and elected a leader. In the future, it will be more convenient to deal with the enemy, this also a good thing. As for the categories that you are not good at, since you have to choose the leader, it must be a person who is proficient in all aspects of mountain medicine and life in general to be qualified." While he was speaking, some people sternly objected, but some people made up their minds. After all, the winner can win the same thing as the loser. If they get the first place, they can also command the entire Nangguang metaphysics world. You know, metaphysics is more than just academic research. Behind the metaphysics is a huge industrial chain, and it can also allow some big people to cling to them. The temptation of money and power, few people can refuse. Some people are moved on the spot. Of course. Jinghai stood up and said, "I don't force you. If anyone is afraid, you can withdraw now. But in the future, he will not have the opportunity to join the Metaphysics Alliance in Nangguang circles, and he will be directly excluded." Everyone hesitated for a while. Although the risks are high, there are also many opportunities. Everyone is thinking in their hearts, after all, it is a great temptation to become the leader, and no one feels bad. Charlie sat in the chair and said nothing. Jinghai's ambition is too great. This is to pave the way to enter the mainland. However, Charlie had no interest in this metaphysical alliance either, and planned to sit and watch the show. Soon, a middle-aged man with short beard stood up. The middle-aged man casually took out a jade slip with a large palm, and swayed in the wind. The jade slip was shining brightly, and he said, "Yang Jones, Yun City, asked Mr. Jinghai for his ability to speak casually." The Jones family is a metaphysical family, focusing on Bulat and Yi, which is the inheritance of Shaoyang during the Northern Thompson dynasty. Yang Jones is the 46th generation descendant of Maihua, who is easy to count. He is very famous in Yun City, and he is naturally proud. The first challenge is Jinghai. It is okay. There was a burst of applause in the field. Yang Jones raised his chin arrogantly. This jade slip was handed down from the Northern Thompson dynasty and helped many masters of Yi learning Bulat and Yi. As for the number one in Nangguang area, I think Jones's family should be ranked first. Jinghai also walked to the court, nodded slightly to Yang Jones, and smiled. "This jade slip is indeed a good thing, but it won't belong to you soon." He stretched out his hand and took out a purse from his pocket. After untying it, he took out an inch-long rune paper, but this rune paper also had a shining luster with cinnabar runes engraved on it. Arhat Golden Talisman. When the crowd saw this golden talisman, they suddenly exclaimed. Warnya explained to Charlie, the Arhat Golden Talisman was made by 18 monks who chanted the sutras for 7 or 49 days, consecrated and refined, and belonged to the fierce anti-evil talisman. Charlie smiled slightly and said, "It's normal, not a good thing." Hearing what he said, everyone turned their eyes and cast disgusting eyes at him. Jinghai also snorted coldly, "I don't have any real skills, but I am not bragging. Everyone knows that the Arhat talisman is a rare treasure. It is not easy to find a group of 18 accomplished monks, and when it is made, the time and place are favorable. The failure rate of consecration is as high as 90%. And this one in Jinghai's hand is full of golden light, it can be said to be hard to find. Stop talking nonsense, let's open a hexagram." Yang Jones let out a cold snort, then pinched several handprints in his hand, chanting the formula in his mouth, and after a while, he said, "The hour begins, and after a quarter of an hour, wind and thunder will come from the west." Jinghai smiled slightly, and without seeing any movement, he said, "The wind is wrapped in thunder. To be precise, this is not the wind, but the shock caused by the opening of the mountain, and it is man-made. There will be jail." Yang Jones frowned, shook his head and said, "Impossible. No one is shown in the hexagram." Mr. Jinghai just smiled and did not answer. Everyone was curious and waited secretly. A quarter of an hour passed quickly, and Yang Jones stared nervously in the air in a daze. But at this moment, a loud bang suddenly came from the west, and then a gust of wind swept across, and the ground vibrated slightly. Solomon smiled and took out his mobile phone, and said, "The news feed I just got, on the side of Zishan, someone quarried rocks, which caused a 2.4 earthquake. The police have arrested him." Yang Jones's face was grey and froze on the spot. He only counted the wind and thunder, but Mr. Jinghai even counted that the matter was man-made and that there would be prison. He raised his head, no longer the arrogance he had just now, and smiled embarrassingly, "Mr. Jinghai is great, it was Jones who lost. I will withdraw from this banquet." After speaking, he picked up the jade slip, turned and left. "Slow!" Solomon shouted, "Mr. Jones, since you are on the court, you should abide by the rules." "What are the rules?" Yang Jones's face was sullen. "According to the rules, the winner has the right to take your things. And, you have to admit it in public, and you will respect Mr. Jinghai in the future." "Nonsense! It's just a banquet. You want to seize my magic weapon, and you want me to respect others, just dreaming." Yang Jones laughed furiously, "His character is hot, how can he tolerate succumbing to others?" Jinghai raised his hand and took out another rune. He used his fingers to draw and call it a few times, and then said, "Hurry as a law." Crack! Under all eyes, Yang Jones's jade slip suddenly broke into two halves and fell to the ground. Yang Jones's treasure was destroyed, and he was frightened and trembling with anger. Jinghai proudly said, "If you don't follow the rules, we should destroy it. Don't give me garbage like that." Yang Jones's face was as gray as death, and he knew that his way of doing things was not a little bit different from that of Jinghai. He destroyed his treasure in one blow, but he didn't even have the power to fight back. Glancing at the jade slips on the ground, Yang Jones gritted his teeth and said, "It's me who is low-minded and inferior humans." After speaking, he didn't even pick up the jade slips on the ground, and left with a black face. And seeing this scene, the expressions of all the people present changed. Jinghai was unfathomable. People who were still confident just now hesitated. Taylor also frowned and asked Guoming in a low voice. Immediately afterward, Taylor stood up, waved his hand bitterly, and said, "What can I do for such a boring banquet? Goodbye, everyone." After that, he took Guoming and walked out. Suddenly 4 strong men in black jumped out from the left and right, blocking the way. Taylor angrily said, "What are you doing? Mr. Guoming, why bother to leave now that you are here?" Jinghai stepped forward and smiled slightly. "My banquet is not a place where you want to come or leave at your will. If you want to go now, isn't it a violation of the rules?" Taylor snorted coldly, "I am not a member of your metaphysics. It is not my business if you choose the leader yourself." Jinghai snorted coldly, "If you want to go, you can save things and consider me to be worthy of your respect." Taylor was also a man with a face anyway, and was furious by Jinghai's words and said, "What do you mean? Mr. Taylor, let me see." Guoming said in a deep voice, stepping forward and reprimanding, "If you dare to stop, it's no wonder that I am ruthless." Seeing Guoming was about to make a move, everyone present cheered. "Mr. Guoming, let this stinky Taoist priest from Hong Kong City taste the greatness of our Nangguang. An outsider wants to unify the Nangguang Academy, and he talks about dreams. Fight him back, Nangguang can't tolerate him in the wild." Jinghai smiled coldly and said, "If you are not convinced, you can try it." Guoming was furious, and struck Jinghai with a punch. This punch was powerful, and obviously Guoming was not an ordinary person. "Just rely on you." Everyone only felt that there was a flower in front of them, and Jinghai had already swayed in front of Guoming, stretched out his hand and stuck a yellow symbol on his forehead. "Fast posture," Warnya said in surprise. And Guoming was stiff as if he had been hit by a holding spell, only his eyes could turn around, revealing a panic. Jinghai calmed down, smiled slightly, and suddenly scolded, "Get down!" Thump! As if he heard the order, Guoming suddenly fell on the ground, on all fours. "Mr. Guoming!" Taylor took a breath and screamed quickly. The surrounding crowd looked at each other, all in shock. With just such a trick, Guoming didn't even have room to resist. How powerful is this? Guoming lay on the ground, extremely annoyed, but his body didn't listen at all, and his mouth angrily said, "Old dog! What kind of sorcerer are you? Just your 3-legged cat skills, and still have the face to challenge me?" Mr. Jinghai sneered sarcastically, and suddenly scolded, "Tell me how a dog barks." Guoming was shocked, and quickly wanted to shut up. But his mouth did not shut, even his vocal cords could not be controlled, and there was a dry barking sound from his mouth. Taylor was shocked and almost fell over with a shake. Guoming is over 60 years old, but now lies in front of Master Jinghai like a dog, learning how to bark vaguely. It was originally a funny scene, but there was a dead silence inside. The crowd was horrified, and there was a burst of fear on their backs. Jinghai actually defeated 2 masters in a row in less than 10 minutes. How powerful is this? Puppet technique. This is the Xiangzi puppet technique that has long since been lost. Fenghui Bao murmured, his expression in shock. After he finished speaking, a cold breath suddenly sounded in the field. The puppet technique was passed down from Xiangzi. It was originally a secret technique passed down from the ancestors of the corpse chaser, but it has now been lost. Unexpectedly, they would be able to witness it with their own eyes. This is enough to show that Jinghai's Taoism is unpredictable, and the people here cannot match it. Guoming was still lying on the ground, his face flushed with embarrassment, but he couldn't control it at all, and he even wanted to die. Jinghai waved his hand, and Guoming suddenly became soft and collapsed directly on the ground, extremely ashamed. "What, Mr. Guoming, are you convinced?" Solomon laughed. Guoming gritted his teeth, blood oozing between his teeth, and murmured bitterly, "I'm taken." Seeing Guoming bowed his head to admit defeat, the whole yard was silent, and no one dared to say anything again. And then, Jinghai turned his head to look at Charlie, and said, "Snatched my clam's treasure that day, today you see my magical powers, do you dare to be arrogant?" Charlie shrugged and said, "Just your 2 strokes, are you counting?" Warnya hurriedly grabbed Charlie, and said in a low voice, "Now let's be soft here. Jinghai does have some skills. Don't lose your life for indifferent dignity." Jinghai sneered and said, "You are young and ignorant, I ask you, how dare you compare me with yourself? If you lose, return the clams back to me and apologize to me on your knees." Charlie smiled lightly and said, "Competition? What makes you think you worthy of me?" Everyone's complexion changed suddenly, and this kid dared to speak such a wild world. He doesn't want to live anymore? In the quiet courtyard, there was a dead silence. Warnya also stood up in shock. As soon as she said this, it couldn't be done right. Jinghai was even more angry, and walked in front of Charlie step by step, and said, "I have seen many people in my life, but they are not like you, deliberately begging to die." Charlie smiled and said, "Who will live and die is not necessarily obvious." Jinghai had a murderous intent, and when his eyes were cold, he wanted to do it. At this moment, a group of people suddenly broke into the door, aggressively. The leader was Stephen. He saw Charlie and immediately shouted, "Charlie, your magic stick, pretend to be a devil to deceive my uncle. You lied to my family, stole money, and used it at the auction to replenish your balance. It was at the expense of Master Jinghai to see through your trick. You should surrender your property now, otherwise my Qin family cannot spare you. As soon as the voice fell, Qin Gang and Aoxia walked in from the door. After hearing Stephen's scolding, it was too late to stop, and there was an embarrassment. Charlie glanced at him lightly, but said nothing. However, his glance made Qin Gang feel cold all over his body, and he was full of fear. He yelled at Stephen and quickly explained to Charlie with a dry smile, "Mr. Wade, this is what happened." Qin Gang didn't dare to conceal it, and explained what happened. After Charlie finished listening, he just frowned slightly, and said coldly, "It's more than 1 billion. If you regret it, the money can be refunded to you at any time." "Oh, Mr. Wade, don't say that. How dare I ask Mr. Wade for a refund? I came here today." It was Qin who admired the prestige of Master Wade's for a long time and wanted to see it. Qin Gang couldn't figure out whether Charlie was capable or fudged, but he was also considered a smart person, so he wasn't going to turn his face with Charlie right away. Although he was complimenting him, he hesitated in his heart. He felt that Charlie couldn't test the depth of this person by himself, so he might as well let Jinghai try. If Charlie showed his feet in front of Jinghai, then he would naturally not be polite to him, and how much money he spent, even the profit would have to be vomited from his mouth. So he sneered at Charlie himself and the others, "Then I won't disturb Master Wade's. I'll talk about this later. You guys should be busy with the important things at hand and leave me alone." Stephen wanted to speak angrily, but Qin Gang glared fiercely, and he not dared to speak any more. When Jinghai saw this, he smiled at Qin Gang and said, "You just came here. I know your Qin family has been upset recently. Charlie also did the practice in your Qin family. I will try it with him today, by the way. Solve the problems for your Qin family. Charlie, if you dare to compete with me, not only will you undoubtedly die today, but afterwards, I will do everything to destroy you." Charlie frowned, and said with a sneer, "Since you want to die, it is your wish." Seeing Charlie's determination, Jinghai sneered and said to Solomon, "It seems that some people are really tired and crooked. No matter what, go and prepare me 3 pillars of sandalwood, a purple gold incense burner, and a peachwood sword. With one hand, I will fulfill him." Solomon didn't dare to neglect, and he was ready soon. After a while, sandalwood was inserted into the incense burner, and clear smoke curled up. Mr. Jinghai raised the peachwood sword, chanting words. Standing next to him, Qin Gang felt dizzy, as if there were several shots in his head and his temples jumped. He endured it for a while, really couldn't stand it, and pleaded, "Mr. Jinghai, how long is this feng shui going to continue? Your family's aura is very heavy. This is a vision, and the Feng Shui Bureau also needs time. Please bear with it for the time being." Seeing Master Wade speak, Qin Gang can only bite the bullet and endure it. But the more patient he was, the more uncomfortable he felt all over. Not only was he nauseous, but he also felt severe pain in his head. But fortunately, a thing on his chest exuded vigorous warmth in an instant, protecting the heart, so that Qin Gang did not collapse on the spot. Qin Gang was shocked. Isn't this the charm given by Charlie? Not knowing what he was thinking, Jinghai took a sip of water and sprayed it on the mahogany sword with a poof, swiping the sword to cut off the rising smoke. Just as the wooden sword swept across the smoke, Qin Gang suddenly felt as if his head had been hit hard, his throat was sweet, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. "Uncle!" Stephen was shocked and rushed forward, holding him back. But Qin Gang's face was ashen, and he didn't even have the strength to speak. "Mr. Jinghai, how could my uncle be like this?" Stephen asked anxiously. Jinghai's expression remained unchanged, and said, "The Qin family's aura is too heavy. I broke it with a fierce Feng Shui situation, and the patriarch was naturally the first to bear the brunt." Qin Gang hurriedly dragged the sick body, struggling to thank you, Mr. Jinghai, for setting up the bureau. I am grateful." After his blood spurted out, he did feel a lot more comfortable in his body. Not only that, but Stephen also felt the changes in his body, and he quickly thanked Jinghai. Fenghui Bao frowned and said, "Jinghai is really capable. The Qin family's evil spirits are so heavy, he can alleviate it, and he really has two brushes. All of you present here are Feng Shui masters, and I don't need to explain that you know that Jinghai broke the Qin family's evil spirits," and the eyes that looked at him also admired. "Uncle, let's go sit there." Stephen helped Qin Gang to walk aside, then turned to look at Charlie, and provocatively said, "How about it? Quickly return our Qin family's money." Charlie curled his lips and said, "The money can be paid back to you, but Qin Gang is afraid that it will be spent." "What?" Qin Gang was suddenly shocked. Charlie glanced at him coldly and said, "Look at your palm, is there a red line?" Qin Gang's face was ugly, and he quickly turned his palms up, and was stunned. He saw a faint red line on his palm. This red line starts from the lifeline of the palm and extends to the arm. Qin Gang was shocked. "What is this? I didn't have it before." Charlie said coldly, "This is your lifeline. The Qin family is so cursed that Jinghai uses your life to resolve it. 3 days later, this red line extends to your elbow, and then you will be dead. Use the virtues accumulated in your life's good deeds to change the Qin family's line and continue." When Qin Gang heard this, he was shocked to stay there. Stephen was also in a panic, and quickly looked at everyone present. All masters here nodded slightly when they saw this scene. Qin Gang would not live for 3 days. Stephen knelt on the ground with a thud, and begged Jinghai, "Mr. Jinghai, please, save my uncle." Jinghai looked arrogant and sneered, "The spell is out, how can it be taken back? I used Qin Gang's life in exchange for your family's life, you should thank me." Aoxu also turned pale, biting her lower lip and entangled for a long time. Then she knelt in front of Charlie with a puff, and said, "Please, save my dad." Charlie glanced at her and said indifferently, "Since your Qin family chooses to believe in Jinghai, then it has nothing to do with me, so why let me do it?" Aoxu's eyes were red, and she gritted her teeth and said, "If you can save my dad, I will promise you anything you want." Charlie smiled and said, "I have no interest." Qin Gang also ran over, knelt in front of Charlie, and cried out, "Mr. Wade, I am blinded by lard, and it is Stephen, the sorrowful star, bewitching me." While speaking, Qin Gang pulled Stephen away, and slapped his face desperately. Stephen dodged again and again. Aoxu also grabbed Charlie's leg and cried, "Just save my dad, please." Charlie sighed and said, "Okay, I'll stand up. I scared you just now." "Nothing at all. Fortunately, your dad is wearing a frightening talisman, or there is no time to fight Stephen now." Qin Gang looked suspicious, took out the shocking talisman from his arms, and said, "Is this talisman working?" Charlie nodded and said, "The red line faded quickly. With Jinghai's 2 tricks, it is still a long way from trying to break my talisman." Qin Gang looked down at his arm, and saw that the red line had dimmed a lot and was gradually fading. He couldn't help but be overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, if it wasn't for you, I would be dead today." Charlie waved his hand and said, "It's because you are lucky, and you came here with a talisman. Otherwise, I don't bother to care about you." After speaking, Charlie turned his head to look at Jinghai, and said, "Now the result is obvious, don't you admit defeat?" Stephen finally came over at this time, knelt on the ground, and apologized to Charlie without a word. Jinghai's face turned blue, staring at Charlie fiercely, and said, "With some small means, I dare to say that I have won? I wanted to spare your life, who knows you are stubborn, and give you a chance at last. Hand over the clams, kneel down and apologize." He didn't want to use the last hole card, but the matter was here. Charlie had already defeated him, making his meditation layout in vain. Moreover, once he uses his whole cards, even he can't completely control it. Everyone here might die. Charlie's face gradually turned cold, and said, "What if I say no? You forced me." Jinghai took out a black porcelain altar from the box beside him as soon as he finished speaking. A few black mosquitoes flew out of the altar, and instantly pounced on the meat and vegetables on the table, chewing them. Warnya looked weird and said, "Does Jinghai still raise mosquitoes?" Everyone watched the black mosquitoes pounce on the flesh, and the picture was very strange. The masters present were all inexplicable. They had no idea what was going on and asked each other. But in a moment, the meat dishes that were eaten by black mosquitoes turned color quickly, and countless smaller black mosquitoes emerged from the meat. In less than 5 minutes, the fresh dishes on the table just now were all rotten and spoiled, and dense mosquitoes emerged. There is a rooster on the grass in the courtyard, which was raised by the White family. A few mosquitoes flew to the rooster at an extremely fast speed. After more than 10 seconds, the rooster screamed and flapped its wings, fell to the ground and convulsed to death. From the feathers of the dead chicken, a large black mosquito drilled out and flew into the air. The black mosquitoes in the air are densely packed, rushing towards the crowd like a whirlwind. The yard suddenly exploded, and the crowd was in a mess, dodged desperately. This black mosquito is extremely poisonous, not only biting people, but also getting into the skin from the wound. Mosquitoes are very small, only the size of sand grains. And the bitten person will be swollen and painful. The masters in the field have used their housekeeping skills, throwing amulets, and chanting mantras. Some people even got under the table, and someone jumped into the pool with a plop, screaming constantly. "What is this?" Warnya was scared to death. "This is a corpse eater." Fungui Bao was shocked and angry. "This is made from a baby corpse. It originated from southern Xinjiang. I didn't expect Jinghai to raise this insidious thing." Jinghai laughed and said cruelly, "This corpse eater is made from a fetus. It is the most poisonous. If you don't respect me, none of you can run away." Black mosquitoes grew more and more. An old master was bitten and swollen all over, vomiting black blood, and fainted to the ground. The black mosquitoes in the air made the scalp numb, and Warnya was also flustered. But soon she discovered that there was no mosquito around Charlie. As soon as those mosquitoes approached Charlie, they turned into black charcoal instantly, as if they had encountered something extremely terrifying. At this moment, Charlie sneered and walked towards Jinghai slowly without receiving any obstacles, holding a white shell symbol in his hand. "This is the thundering order," he refined. "It exudes a faint fluorescent light, with a hint of thunder surrounding it." Watching this scene, Jinghai muttered, "Why are you doing this? How is this possible?" Charlie seemed to be bathed in a halo, as if a god came personally, his expression indifferent. "Impossible. The corpse spell has been completely destroyed, it is impossible for anyone to deal with it." Jinghai roared hoarsely. Charlie looked at Jinghai and sneered, "I dare to call it a waste? Today, I will show you what is real, great supernatural power." Immediately afterwards, Charlie yelled, "Here it comes!" As soon as the voice fell, there was a loud noise. Boom! In an instant, there was a thunderbolt in the sky, and the sky that was still clear just now suddenly piled up black clouds. In a blink of an eye, the entire sky is already covered with dark clouds. "This..." Fungui Bao looked up at the sky, shocked to speak. Everyone, including Warnya, also had the same expression. Qin Gang murmured, "A miracle, this is a miracle." In the next second, a silver snake lightning shot straight down from the air. An angry lightning hit the mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes immediately turned into coke. The tables and chairs split, the trees fell, and the air was filled with a strong smell of burnt dryness. But Charlie stood with his hand held up, staring coldly, and the thunder light around his body flickered. There was a strong wind in the courtyard, and a torrential rain poured down, washing the whole area clean. A few seconds later, the crowd recovered and dodged around, fearing being struck by lightning. "I'll go, he is not a human. He is a god. Don't hack me, I will kneel down and admit my mistake to Mr. Wade. Help, I was wrong." Several people thumped and knelt down, and kowtowed to Charlie. Qin Gang was also scared to drill down the table, awe in his heart. However, these few sky thunders, like eyes, only cleaved mosquitoes into dregs, and didn't hurt anyone. Jinghai's expression was extremely shocked and terrified. He never dreamed that Charlie's strength would be so terrifying. Compared with him, he is like an ant. If the billowing thunder struck him, he wouldn't be able to keep a whole body. He panicked, and quickly got up, scrambling to flee outside the courtyard. He just wanted to escape now. He escaped from Oris Hill and never came back again. He didn't even think about being a venerable person in Oris Hill. Want to escape? Charlie smiled coldly, stretched out his hand and pointed, "Here, come again." Boom! A sky of thunder smashed its head and smashed Jinghai straight to the ground, breaking the pottery jar in his hand. His hands were severely painful, he was scared and shivered and screamed. "Wade, Mr. Wade, spare my life!" Charlie looked cold, and walked towards him step by step. Using a fetus to refine goo. It is really damaging to the world, and extremely corrupt. The evil devil said crookedly, he was punishable by the heavens. "I am punishing you by thunder today. Do you accept it?" Jinghai opened his mouth wide, but couldn't say anything. He watched the thunder and lightning flash in the dark clouds, and he was crying in grief and indignation. It seems that today is his limit. Why? Why is there such a terrifying existence in Oris Hill? Why do I have to trouble him blindly? Boom! It doesn't mean that Jinghai wants to understand the cause and effect, and several days of thunder are smashed together, and a bunch of smashes are on Jinghai. Mr. Jinghai, who was also aggressive and arrogant just now, was smashed to the ground before he even screamed. But the human form is no longer visible, it becomes a piece of burnt wood, and a burnt smell permeates the courtyard, which is disgusting. Rain harvests, wind rises. Charlie waved his hand, the torrential rain stopped miraculously, and a gust of wind blew up on the ground, flying sand and rocks, sweeping away the smell of burnt corpses in the courtyard. In the gust of wind, Charlie's face was calm, as if nothing had happened. But everyone in the courtyard had their mouths open in shock. Stephen trembled all over and didn't dare to speak. If Charlie struck him with lightning at that time, he would have died long ago. Only then did he understand that Charlie had always put him in his eyes, so he could survive. "Mr. Wade, you are a god." Qin Gang's voice trembled, and he knelt on the ground with a plop, facing Charlie with his hands together. Solomon was already so scared that he knelt on the ground, walked a few steps in front of Charlie, and kept kowtowing. "Mr. Wade spares my life. I am obsessed with my heart. I don't follow Mr. Jinghai. I follow the gods and sticks. I beg Mr. Wade for my dog life. I am willing to be a bull and a horse for Mr. Wade." Charlie glanced at him indifferently, and walked past Solomon. Fenghui Bao said respectfully, "I think that the Venerable of Nangguang from now on will be Mr. Wade. From the future of Nangguang Metaphysics, please give orders Mr. Wade, and I will follow your orders." Ordered the entire Nangguang area of the metaphysical community. Just now everyone was fighting to death and life, but now no one has any objections, all of them are convinced, and shouted in unison. "Mr. Wade, please order the Oris Hill." Everyone was fighting to death just now, but now they are all eager to let Charlie order the entire Oris Hill, even the entire Nangguang area of metaphysics, and no one has objections to Charlie. They have never seen a god like Charlie, who can attract heavenly thunder in a word. This is the realm of metaphysics, a supernatural power that they don't dare not imagine. Looking at that Jinghai who was scorched by lightning on the ground, he knew that Charlie's strength was unfathomable. Letting such a person order everyone, not only was everyone convinced, but they also hoped to get Charlie's advice. Charlie frowned slightly, and said to everyone, "I am not a member of metaphysics, and I don't usually study feng shui, and I am not interested in metaphysics. In the future, let Fenghui Bao act as an agent for you." As soon as he finished speaking, the people present opened their mouths in shock. The sky thunder just now has shocked their minds. Mr. Wade still said that he is not interested in feng shui metaphysics? And he is not a person in metaphysics? Is this just a momentary interest of others, just summoning a few sky thunders to play? Clothes. Capital service. The crowd is silent, he look at them, others look at him. Fenghui Bao glanced at Charlie hesitantly, and said respectfully, "It is an honor to share the worries for Mr. Wade. From now on, I would like to ask you friends to take care of the matters. I will take care of the minor matters by myself, and then come to ask Mr. Wade for advice." The dignified atmosphere relaxed a lot. Taylor, the richest man in Heiken, immediately walked over and said in a respectful voice, "I thank Mr. Wade for this move and would like to offer a check for 80 million to show my admiration." Guo Ming also stepped forward, ashamed, and said, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for eliminating the harm. From now on, Guo Ming will listen to any dispatch from Nangguang Supreme Leader. Wish to listen." When the crowd saw the two men stepping forward to shoot their horses, they were immediately unwilling to be left behind, and they flattered Charlie. Fenghui Bao said, "Today's banquet, the White family sponsored 150 million. It was originally a bonus for each winner. Now Mr. Wade is the first, this bonus will naturally go to him. Solomon still knelt on the ground and did not dare to get up, his forehead was knocked out, and he hurriedly said, "Mr. Wade, a villain with no eyes, almost harmed the heroes of Nangguang, and please forgive me." Charlie frowned and said coldly, "Solomon, didn't you believe in Jinghai before?" Solomon hurriedly knocked his head and said, "Mr. Wade, the villain is completely blinded by that Jinghai. Now I know that he is nothing more than a bug in front of Mr. Wade. From now on, the villain will keep his eyes open and worship Mr. Wade throughout his life with respect." After that, Solomon said again, "Mr. Wade, in order to express the villain's inner apology, I would like to give Mr. Wade another villa. After I send someone to clean up, I will give you the key and ask Mr. Wade to forgive me my crime." "Villa?" Charlie frowned slightly. For his worth, a villa is nothing. However, if he buys it himself, it must be inappropriate. After all, there is no way to explain the source of funds to wife. But if someone wants to give him a set, then why should he be polite? After all, nowadays the family still lives in the old house, and it really needs to change to a better environment. As for this Solomon, it is indeed a bit hateful, but it seems that he has a deep remorse attitude and is not guilty of death. So Charlie nodded and said, "If you are interested, let's just do this. If it gets into my hands again in the future, I won't be so good at talking." Solomon was overjoyed and quickly knelt and thanked him. "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for raising your hand. The villain must reflect on it seriously and there will never be another next time." "Okay." Immediately, he looked at Qin Gang, who was full of horror. Indifferently asked him, "Qin Gang, does your family think that Charlie cheated you of your money?" Qin Gang suddenly softened his legs and knelt on the ground with a thump, and said in horror, "I dare not. I was just confused for a while and had a little doubt about Mr. Wade. Now that I am completely convinced that Mr. Wade is the real master of metaphysics, I seek forgiveness." After finishing talking, he grabbed Stephen, who was frightened and silly, and shouted angrily. Stephen was already trembling with fright, and Qin Gang yelled, knelt down instantly, and said tremblingly, "Mr. Wade, I was wrong, Mr. Wade. Please forgive me, I really didn't mean to doubt you." Qin Gang shook his hand and gave him a big mouth, and then he slapped another one with the backhand, slapped a dozen times in a row, causing Stephen's cheek to swell into a pig's head. Stephen didn't dare to move, he knelt on the ground and cried. At this time, being beaten was nothing to him. He was most afraid that Charlie would directly recruit a Sky Thunder like Jinghai and smash him to death. The handsome face of Aoxu next to him turned pale with fright. She never dreamed that Charlie would turn out to be such a master with great magical powers. Originally, she was still a little angry with Charlie in her heart, and felt that she had to find a chance to avenge Charlie, a disciple, but now it seems that the other party is so strong that she can only worship. She was afraid that Charlie would be angry with her younger brother Stephen, so she knelt down and begged, "Mr. Wade, my younger brother is still young and ignorant. Please forgive him this time." Seeing that the three of the Chin family were kneeling in front of him, Charlie said calmly, "It is good that you have a good attitude to admit your mistakes, so I won't mention this for the time being, but if there are similar things in the future, don't blame me for being cruel." As soon as the Chin family heard these words, the family hurriedly bowed their heads and thanked him as if they were getting amnesty. Warnya stood outside the crowd, watching this scene in her eyes, feeling excited and mixed. Before today, she had always thought that Charlie was just a little accomplished in antiques, but his background and family background were ordinary, so he was not a big man. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be hiding his strength. Today's scene really shocked Warnya to speak. She had never seen such a scene in her entire life. At this moment, Charlie took a step higher, looked down at the people present, and said coldly, "Listen to me." As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately looked up at Charlie, showing full respect, and did not dare to make a sound. Charlie looked around the crowd and sternly shouted, "Out of this door! No one can mention anything to the outside world about today's matter. Otherwise, I will let him have a taste of Jinghe's fate." Everyone's expressions were stunned, and it seemed that Mr. Wade didn't want to pass on his identity and strength. He really is a very low-key master. Unlike the famous Jinghe, who has a little three-legged cat technique, he will show off publicly everywhere. Compared with Mr. Wade, he is simply worthless. More than guilty. As a result, everyone clasped their fists and bowed, "We will follow Mr. Wade's instructions." Charlie nodded in satisfaction at this time, and said, "In that case, we will leave now." In the eyes of everyone worshipping, Charlie left calmly. Warnya couldn't help but look at him on the way to send him back. At this time, Charlie had returned to the ordinary state of his, and she could not see any powerful cultivation base on his body. She was surprised and felt a little weird. Just now, Charlie exuded the aura of a superior, which made people fear and tremble. But now, this temperament is gone. At first glance, it looks no different from passers-by. Hard to say if it is his intentional restraint, or just an illusion. Warnya couldn't help asking, "Charlie, did you really call the spirits that time?" Charlie looked at her and smiled slightly. "Guess? If I say it's a coincidence, do you believe it?" In Warnya's mind, the appearance of Charlie summoning Tian Li flashed past unconsciously. In the flash of thunder, he stood proudly in the world, with outstanding temperament. If it is such a man, no matter which woman sees it, she will fall in love. Warnya couldn't help her heart moving, but she shook her head quickly. What a joke! Even the world's top physicists cannot control lightning. If Charlie could summon Tian Li, would he still be a poor son-in-law like he is now? Could it be that the sky thunder just now was really just a coincidence? When Charlie returned to the door, he heard the voice of his mother-in-law Elaine coming from the house. "I told you to find a capable husband, but you just didn't listen. See how capable this son-in-law is." He gave her a big 4-bedroom. More than 180 square meters. "How bright. Let's look at our house again. It's a total of 120 square meters, so I'm a stubborn person." After finishing speaking, the mother-in-law said angrily, "People's son-in-law can count on it. Charlie's marriage is useless. Counting on him, I'm afraid I won't live in a big house in my life." Claire's dissatisfied voice came, "Mom, what do you envy other people doing? Besides, I have also been promoted to director. If we save a few years, can we still not afford a new house?" The mother-in-law spoofed and said, "Wait a few more years? Wait a few more years, the day Lily will be cold. Since you married Charlie, our family's life has plummeted. We can still live in Wilson's villa, now what? This broken house, my friends, all can live better than me." Claire said, "Mom, does it make sense for you to always compare like this? It's boring." The mother-in-law said angrily, "Because I can't beat others, so I'm boring. Especially boring." Charlie shook his head helplessly at this time, opened the door and walked in. Seeing Charlie's return, Elaine snorted coldly, and said, "Do you still know how to come back? Can you cook the meal? We are all hungry." Charlie smiled and said, "Mom, I'm going to cook now." After speaking, he went straight to the kitchen. Charlie couldn't be more clear about Elaine's character, snobbery, and clumsy. He felt uncomfortable when he saw what other people had. If she knows that Solomon wants to give him a villa in order to make amends, she is afraid that she will come over and kneel and lick him immediately. However, as for Elaine's performance, he is not ready to say anything about this house. Charlie was busy working in the kitchen. Claire walked over and said in a low voice, "Don't take what Mom said to your heart, she just admires vanity." Charlie deliberately said, "What did Mom say?" "I didn't hear a word." "Just pretend, it's strange if you didn't hear it." Claire poked Charlie's forehead with her finger. Charlie took advantage of the opportunity to hold her hand. Claire blushed, and quickly looked out of the kitchen before she retracted her hands. But Charlie held on to it, took a closer look, and saw that she was carrying the bracelet he made, and he smiled and asked, "Is this bracelet effective?" "Hey!" Claire regained her senses, nodded and said, "Don't say it is really effective. Since I put on the bracelet, my body feels like a new look and feels much more comfortable." "What exactly is your bracelet made of? Does it work?" Charlie smiled and said, "It's just a pearl." The white beads were worn on Claire's wrist, making her wrist like snow, white and tender like a new lotus root. Charlie's smooth and warm jade hand was held in his hand, like a piece of warm jade, and he didn't want to let it go. Claire also noticed it, blushing, and immediately retracted her hand and glared at him. Charlie smiled and said, Do you want to change the house too? Of course, who doesn't want to live in a new house? Since my mother moved out of the villa, she complained all the time that it was too small and broken. Claire sighed, then recovered, and said, "It's just that the house price is too expensive now, and the family doesn't have that much money, so let's forget it." With that said, Claire suddenly remembered something and blurted out, "By the way, we can go to see the real estate first, and calculate how much the difference between this house and the new one would be. If the price difference is not so high, then replace this with a better one." Before Charlie had time to speak, Claire said excitedly, "That's it. It's the weekend tomorrow, let's go out and check out the real estate." Seeing that she was very interested in this matter, Charlie nodded and said, "Since you want to see it, I will accompany you." Claire researched the real estate information on her mobile phone and decided to take a look for houses in new district with a better environment. It just so happened that someone came and knocked on the door after eating. A courier handed a small package to Charlie and said, "This is for you. Please sign it." After Charlie signed the receipt, he opened it and found that there was a suite door key and several golden cards with the words Thompson Villa A05 on it. At this time, Charlie received a phone call from Solomon, the patriarch of the White family. He respectfully said on the phone, "Mr. Wade, have you received the key and room card? Thompson Villa is developed by Thompson Company in Orris Hill. The most high-end real estate project. The No A05 I gave you is the largest villa, excluding the courtyard, with an area of more than 1,000 square meters. Please accept it." Charlie has heard of Thompson. They have developed villas and high-rise communities in Orris Hill, which can be said to be the highest-end real estate project in the city. The market price of such a villa is at least 100 million. It seems that Solomon is indeed bleeding heavily. So Charlie said lightly, "You have a heart." Solomon said ecstatically, "Where is it? It is an honor for the White family to serve Mr. Wade." Back to the room, Charlie deliberately asked Claire, "Wife, do you like the house of Tom's Builders? Thompson first grade?" Claire exclaimed, "How can we afford the houses there? The prices of ordinary high-rise residential buildings there are twice as expensive as outside. But the houses are indeed the best in Orris Hill." Charlie smiled slightly and said, "You can go and see it tomorrow, let's talk about whether you can buy it or not later." Claire hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Forget it. Let's be more pragmatic and take a look at ordinary houses." Charlie smiled and said, "You tell me, I have a friend at Thompson first grade. He said he can help get the internal price. We can go and see first." Early the next morning, Charlie took the villa key and the companion access card given by Solomon, and drove with his wife to the Thompson Sales Center. Soon, the car stopped in front of the Thompson Sales Center. At this time, the sales center is almost crowded. It seems that the citizens of Orris Hill are still very interested in the real estate of Thompson. Even if they can't afford it, they must come to open their eyes. Seeing this posture, Claire said to Charlie, "Charlie, they are so expensive, we can't afford it, so don't join in the fun." Charlie smiled and said, "My wife, you have come here, what are you going to do? Besides, I really want to see the world, come with me and have a look." Claire said helplessly, "Well, it's just time to see what the top Thompson looks like." After entering, the people gathered around the huge sand table, listening to the shopping guide explaining the general situation of the Thompson community. The area of real estate developed by Thompson in Orris Hill is very large. On the periphery of the real estate, there are high-rise residential buildings, which are relatively ordinary housing. The area ranges from 120 square meters to 240 square meters. The price is very high, starting at $80,000. As for the deepest, most comfortable, and perfect prime location of the real estate, it is the villa area with single-family houses. The size of the villa area ranges from 300 square meters to more than 1,000 square meters. Because it has a yard and a basement, the price is very expensive, at 130,000 square meters. In other words, the villa Solomon gave to Charlie was worth $130 million. The shopping guide also introduced, "We provide separate property and security services for distinguished villa owners. Don't look at ordinary houses and villas in the same community, but there is a fence around the villa area, isolated from ordinary houses. The ordinary residential area outside is already very safe. People are not allowed to enter, and the villa area inside is safer. To put it simply, if a thief enters the ordinary residential area outside, it is absolutely impossible. Then enter the villa area through the security of the villa area, so the owner of the villa area is extremely safe, you can rest assured." At this time, a woman said angrily, "You are too much, right? This is to let the owners of the ordinary residential area outside help the owners of the villa area to block bullets." Many people around nodded one after another, listening to the shopping guide. It really meant that. Charlie felt that the voice was a bit familiar, and when he looked up, he realized that it was a woman with heavy makeup. That woman is Claire's cousin, Wendy. Why is she here? Charlie and Claire were a little surprised. Looking next to her, her father Noah Wilson, Mother Horiachian and her brother Harold were all there. Could it be that their family came to buy a house? Claire whispered to Charlie, "Uncle and family are all here, let's go." Charlie shook his head, "What are you doing? If they are here, can't we be here?" Claire said, "I'm afraid they will run on you again." Charlie smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, your husband has been run on for so many years. There are already more lice and itching." "Okay," Claire nodded. At this time, the shopping guide said with a smile to Wendy, who had just protested, "This lady, it's true that we, Thompson, have always regarded the villa owners as the most distinguished owners. Our private swimming pool, high-end sports clubs, High-end health clubs, golf courses, and Michelin restaurants specially introduced from Italy are all opened in the villa area and only serve the villa owners. Wendy said angrily, "What do you mean? The owner of our high-rise living outside are not humans? We also spent money, okay? Why don't we enjoy these supporting facilities?" The shopping guide said, "Sorry, I'm sorry, we also have a club in the high-rise area outside. If you buy a house, you can use the high-rise area club." Wendy asked, "Can't I go there to use high-end health club? Can't I go to play golf?" "No," the shopping guide said, "the facilities in our house are specially prepared for villa owners." "I'm really sorry." Harold was very annoyed and said, "What are you doing?" "We are still planning to buy your 240 square meter largest high-rise residential building, 167 million. With so much money, you don't let us use the supporting facilities inside?" "Mom?" "Yes, believe it or not, I won't buy it." The shopping guide smiled slightly and said, "Sir, let me tell you that when we built this project, we built the outer circle of ordinary residences because of the city's requirement that we were not allowed to develop a pure villa area. That's why we built these attached ordinary residences, and everything in our place is respected by the owners of the villa area. If you can't accept it, you can buy a villa, or you can buy nothing at all. To be honest, our outer flats are also selling very well, and we sold 80 on the opening day." Harold's expression suddenly became ugly. He thought that if he said not to buy, the other party would start to think about their stance. But he didn't expect that people would be so rigid. The subtext of the shopping guide is, if you want to buy you can buy, if you don't want to, just off. The angered Harold blurted out to his parents, "I'm going, don't buy it, we can buy it wherever when we have money." Harold's mother, Horia, said, "Where are you going? This is the house I am after, and I can't look at the houses elsewhere." Harold persuaded, "Mom, isn't it just for the wealthy people in the villa area to whom we will stand guard and block bullets? You have to be treated differently. What's good about this place?" "You know what?" Horia said. "Even if the outside high-rise environment and facilities are not as good as the inner villa area, it is the best in the high-rise area of Oris Hill. The villa your grandma lives in is too old. The decorations were done many years ago, and I've long been bored." Noah Wilson on the side also nodded and said, "Your grandma's current villa is indeed too old, the surrounding area is also remote, and there are no supporting facilities. If you want to buy a pack of cigarettes at night, you have to drive a long way. How can the facilities be so complete here?" As he said again, "I have the same idea as your mother, just buy it here." Harold sighed. He was just pretending to be haughty in front of the shopping guide. He was irritated, and suddenly saw two familiar figures, which made him immediately interested, and blurted out, "Oh, Claire, Charlie, why are you two here?" Claire didn't expect to be seen by Harold. Seeing his voice attracted the attention of his family, he laughed twice and said, "I and Charlie came out to take a look." Harold immediately said contemptuously, "Why? With your family's strength, plus your waste husband, you still want to buy a house in a high-end place like Thompson?" Harold naturally looked down upon Charlie by 10,000. And he was full of resentment towards Claire, then the company director. Seeing that the couple came to Thompson to see the house, they wanted to seize the opportunity to satirize them. When Charlie heard that Harold dared to spray on him and his wife, he immediately sneered, "What? People like you can come to Thompson for inspection, why can't we?" Harold sneered and said, "I can come because our family can afford it." "Can you afford to buy a house here?" Charlie smiled, "How do you know that I can't afford it?" Harold snorted, "How can you afford to have a ghost? Do you know how much this house is? The smallest one is 120 square meters, more than 80,000 square meters, and it costs 10 million. 10 million, you hear?" Charlie laughed, "I don't bother to buy the smallest house. If I want to buy it, I will also buy the largest." "You're pooh," Harold said coldly, "the biggest 240 flats can you afford?" Wendy also laughed, "Yeah, Charlie, can you afford a 240 square meters house? Such a big house, even our family can't buy it." "How can you?" Charlie looked at her, smiled and asked, "Who told you that I want to buy a house of 240 square meters?" Wendy snorted contemptuously, "What? Didn't you say you want to buy the biggest one? Can't install it now?" Charlie laughed and said, "Wendy, you are so unpromising. Didn't you see that there is a large villa area on this table? The villa inside is the largest house." "Bah!" Wendy said disdainfully, returning the villa. "The smallest villa inside is tens of millions, and the expensive one is even hundreds of millions. You can't afford it for 8 lifetimes with your rag life." Charlie smiled and said, "What a coincidence, I just have one set, and it's the biggest one." "Ha ha ha ha." Harold's family laughed forward and backwards, pointing to Charlie, and said contemptuously, "You still buy the largest villa? My God, are you laughing at us too?" Many customers who watched the house also heard Charlie's words, and laughed one by one. "It looks like a stinky rag, and he's still buying a villa. If he can afford this villa, then I can afford the entire Thompson product. It's really bragging not to write drafts." Claire's face was also a little unsustainable, and she whispered in Charlie's ear, "Charlie, what are you talking nonsense? Aren't you ashamed of talking nonsense?" Charlie smiled and said, "What's the shame, to be honest?" Harold smiled backwards and closed together, and said, "Have you heard? Your own wife doesn't believe you, and the eyes of the people are sharp. People like you are not even fit to enter this sales hall." After speaking, he said viciously, "Wait, I will tell the sales lady to drive you out." Immediately afterwards, Harold immediately greeted a sales lady who came over and pointed to Charlie and said, "Beauty, "What's the matter with you? Why did you let such rubbish rag in?" This kind of person said without embarrassment to buy your best villa. With such people in the most expensive villa here, those of us who are really capable of buying a house don't want to take it. The sales lady glanced at Charlie, and she could also see that Charlie's clothes were ordinary, not what a rich man should have. Not to mention buying a villa, even the client who buys the smallest 3-bedroom apartment is more decent than him. The surrounding people also started to booze, saying, "Hurry up and get this guy out, it affects our mood too much." The sales lady walked up to Charlie and said, "Gentlemen, if you are not going to buy a house, please leave, and don't affect our other customers who are interested in the houses." Claire sighed, pulled Charlie's sleeves, and said, let's go, and take a look elsewhere." Others also started to roar, "Poor ghosts, go quickly, don't be embarrassed here." Charlie didn't move, and said with a smile, "Do you know why you can't afford to live in a villa? Because you are all short-sighted people. With your eyesight, it is impossible for you to live in a villa in this life." Harold sipped, "Bah! Charlie, you really have a face to say? Look at all of them, which one is not more rich than you?" Charlie raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Harold, you keep saying that I can't afford a villa, so if I really can afford it, what shall you do?" Harold laughed a lot, pointed to the tallest high-rise building on the sand table, and said arrogantly, "If you can afford the villa inside, I, Harold, will jump off the top of this building." Many people around screamed, "Smelly pauper, if you can afford it, I will dance too." "That's it. If you want to jump, you can count me as well. I don't like this kind of stupid who likes to pretend." Claire never felt so embarrassed, and complained a bit to Charlie, and reprimanded, "Charlie, what do you have to do with them here? Do you have to be happy not to come to this place?" Charlie smiled slightly and said, "My wife, how do you know if your husband knows nothing?" With that, Charlie took out the villa key and the villa's access card from his pocket, and said lightly, "Look, this is the key and information card of the A05 villa." Wendy smiled and said, "Charlie, do you think you can make us believe you by just holding the key? You think we are too mentally retarded?" Charlie threw the key and the information card to the sales lady, and said lightly, "Come on, tell them if this is true." The sales lady recognized the key and information card that Charlie had taken out at a glance, and when she saw that they were exclusively for the Thompson Villa, she was shocked. Could it be that this person is really the owner of the villa area? She just wanted to kick him out. If he is really the owner, if he gets angry, her job will definitely be gone. Thinking of this, she took Charlie's information card in a panic, scanned the internal reader, and the reader immediately issued a computer voice, "Hi, distinguished owner of Building A05, Mr. Charlie, welcome to your home." The sales lady suddenly exclaimed, "Are you Mr. Charlie?" "Yes." Charlie nodded, it seems that the White family has already transferred this villa to this name." The sales lady immediately returned the card to Charlie with very respectful hands, and said in a panic, "Mr. Charlie, I'm so sorry, I didn't know you are the distinguished owner of Building A05. Please forgive me for what happened just now." Everyone present could not help but be stunned to see this scene. Charlie is really the owner here? Are you kidding me? Can this kind of person afford a Thompson first-class villa? Harold's expression is extremely ugly. What is going on? Charlie buys Thompson's first-class villa? He would rather believe that there are ghosts in the world than that Charlie has this strength. But, what's the matter with this sales lady? She can never lie, right? And she just scanned Charlie's card, and even the machine reminded Charlie to be the owner here. What happened? Seeing that the sales lady was nervous, fearing that she would lose her job because she offended Charlie, Charlie waved his hand lightly, "Little things, I won't hold grudges." After speaking, Charlie said again, "By the way, you can tell these short-sighted guys about the A05 villa." The sales lady hurriedly said to others, "Our Thompson Villa area is divided into 4 types A, B, C, D, of which the best is the largest area of Type A, which has 3 floors above ground and 2 floors underground. There is a private elevator inside. The total usable area is more than 1,000 square meters, and it is equipped with hundreds of square meters of front and rear courtyards. The price is more than 100 million. It is the most expensive villa of our Thompson and even the entire Oris Hill." When these words came out, everyone's jaw dropped. Charlie owns a villa that sells for more than 1 billion, a 3-bedroom house with a dozen or so, and who is dressed in ordinary clothes, can actually have such a super luxury house? Harold's expression is extremely ugly. His sister and parents are going crazy with jealousy. Wendy asked incredulously, "Charlie, how come you have a villa here?" Charlie smiled faintly and said, "Someone gave it to me, can't I have it?" "Why are you?" Wendy is really angry. Her heart is higher than the sky for her life, and she has no chance to live in the luxurious villa here. Why can Charlie live here? Charlie was too lazy to respond to her, but looked at her brother Harold, smiled and said, "Harold, didn't you want to jump off the building? When would you jump?" Harold's face was pale, extremely ugly, and clenched his fists and said, "Charlie, you talk to me about these useless things. I still don't believe you can afford this villa. Not to mention that someone will give you the villa. Tell me, how did you come to this villa?" Charlie shook his head and smiled, and said to the people around, "If you see it, it means you can't lose." After speaking, Charlie said to Harold again, "Harold, with your ability, you are also worthy of buying a set of ordinary high-rises, so that people like us who live in villas can stand guard. You are not worthy of living in the villa, let alone know me. How did the villa come from? It's none of your business. All you need to know is that this is a place you can't afford to live in this whole life." Harold's expression was extremely ugly. It was the first time for him to be so insulted by Charlie, but the most hateful thing was that he couldn't even talk back. How to pay it back? He bought a 240 square meter building for his family, and the pressure was still a little bit heavy. The family was hesitant here, but Charlie actually had the largest villa here. The gap between them was really too big. It can be said that this time he was sturdy and satirized by Charlie. It really made him angry. He gritted his teeth and said with a black face, "Charlie, you can stand it. You don't want us to say hello to your home in such a big villa. Is there still the Wilson family in your eyes?" Charlie smiled and said, "Didn't you always say that I am not from the Wilson family? So, why do you want to say hello?" Having said this, Charlie turned to Claire, "Wife, as we are here, let's go to our new villa to see." Claire blurted out, "What is going on here?" Charlie smiled and said, "I'll explain to you slowly later." Just after speaking, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Oh, eldest brother and sister-in-law, are you buying a house in Thompson? It's amazing." It was Charlie's mother-in-law, Elaine. Coming with Elaine is Charlie's father-in-law Jacob. Charlie and Claire were a little surprised. Why did they both come here? Claire hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Parents, why are you here?" Elaine said, "Your uncle and aunt called us, saying that they want to see the Thompson house, and let us come over and help them come up with ideas." When Elaine said this, she looked at Charlie, somewhat annoyed in her heart. In fact, she didn't want to come over at all, because she had just got angry with her daughter yesterday and said she wanted to move out of the old house, but unexpectedly, she received a call from Noah's family today and they asked her and her husband to come and show them the house. What house to see? Don't they just want to call them over to show them that they want to buy at Thompson? Elaine was uncomfortable with anger, but because she didn't dare not give face to the Wilson family boss, she had to rush over with her husband as a foil. That's why she was upset with Charlie in every way. If she finds a talented son-in-law, she might be able to live in Thompson first. At this time, she looked at her sister-in-law Horia with a flattering expression, and said with emotion, "Sister-in-law, you are really amazing. You bought a house in Thompson in a blink of an eye. I really envy you. I don't know how long our family can live in that old house. From such a luxurious house like Thompson. What you bought is 240 square meters. I see if our family can't save so much money in 50 years. Although she was very upset with the eldest family, Elaine also knew that she had to slap them, so she came up with 3 horses. Harold's mother, Horiachien's expression was extremely ugly. She glared at Elaine and said coldly, "Elaine, what do you mean by this? Do you look down on people?" Horiachien's heart is almost exploded. She wanted to call Jacob and Elaine over and let them witness the purchase of a first-grade Thompson mansion with their own eyes, so that they had a sense of existence in front of them, and then satirized them again. But she didn't expect that the son-in-law has the ability. He actually got a Thompson first-class mansion villa. This is really maddening her, and she is also jealous of death. Now that Elaine is here, she deliberately complimented her for buying a 240 square meter building. Isn't this a mockery of her? Your family has hundreds of millions of worth villa, and you still say you envy me? You also said that you can't live in such a luxurious house. Isn't this a curse? Elaine didn't know what was going on. She slapped Horiyachien's flattery when she came, but Horiyachien said that she looked down on people, and she was so wrong in her heart. The Lady Wilson licked her when she came, and she disliked her of course. Look down on her? Does look down on her if she kneel? So Elaine hurriedly bites the bullet and continued flattering, "Oh, sister-in-law, I am compared with you, that is, the candle meets the sun, and it is far behind. How can I look down on you? You see how good your life is, you're going to live in the Thompson first-grade house. Look at me again. I still live in the small broken house. Hey, our little broken house is really broken and rotten. How does it compare with your Thompson first-grade house? So of course I envy you." Horiyachien was even more irritated by what she tried to say something, she couldn't even speak her words. Her husband, Noah Wilson next to her, gritted his teeth and cursed, "Elaine, is it interesting for you to blame Horiya here? Isn't it just a villa? What are you bullish for?" After that, he looked at his brother Jacob and said coldly, "Jacob, am I still a brother in the eyes of you husband and wife? You have a villa and are calling ours big one." Jacob was stunned. "Villa? What villa? Brother, are you going to buy a villa? So rich?" When Noah Wilson heard this, he suddenly thought that Jacob was deliberately running him with words, blowing his beard and staring angrily, and said, "Jacob is okay, why do you say such things? Don't you just want to live in Thompson first-grade villa now? Isn't this just getting up with me?" Jacob was stunned. "What? I live in Thompson's first-class villa? Big brother, don't you always use me to ridicule me?" Elaine was also confused. "Brother, are you making a mistake? Is there any misunderstanding in this?" Noah Wilson pointed at Charlie, and said with a displeased expression, "Your son-in-law has made a reservation for first-class villa, let him talk about the specifics." Elaine and Jacob were both dumbfounded, they looked at Charlie in astonishment, and asked with unbelievable faces, "Charlie, what your uncle said is true? Did you really get a Thompson first-class villa?" Charlie nodded and said, "Parents, there is indeed a villa, which is given to me by someone for helping him." "Who gave it?" Elaine blurted out with a look of ecstasy in her eyes. Charlie said, "I helped a friend solve some feng shui problems, and he gave me a villa." Elaine was extremely excited and blurted out, "Take us to visit this villa." "Thompson's villa, I can't even dream of it." Claire pulled Charlie a hand at this time, and asked in a low voice, "Charlie, what is going on?" Charlie smiled slightly and said in a low voice, "Someone really gave me a villa. If you don't believe it, let's go and see it now." When Elaine looked at her eldest brother and sister-in-law again, she felt a sense of superiority in her heart. "Okay. If you buy a large apartment, just follow me and let me come to accompany you to see the house. Now it's all right. I'm going to live in the Thompson Villa area soon. I've been pressed by you for such a long time. Turned over to be mastered." So she deliberately smiled and said, "Oh, eldest brother and sister, Harold and Wendy, since you are all here, why don't we visit this villa together? What do you think?" Noah wished to leave immediately, but his wife Horia still grabbed him, winked at him, and said to Elaine, "Okay, in that case, let's go and see." As she said, she lowered her voice and said in her husband's ear, "I will take some photos and videos later and show them to the Lady Wilson. If the Lady Wilson sees this villa, she will naturally ask them to come over. Is it not right?" Noah Wilson's eyes suddenly lit up. It turns out that his wife has a working idea. It's wonderful. So Charlie took a group of people and walked into the villa area of Thompson. As soon as they entered the villa area, everyone kept looking around. The environment in the villa area was several times better than the high-rise residences outside, and it was extremely refined. "Charlie, where is your villa?" Wendy asked loudly on purpose. Charlie took the key, walked past Wendy, smiled and walked to the villa in front. "This is the one, A05. Under the eyes of everyone, Charlie didn't change his face, took the key to open the door of the villa, and gently pushed. The door squeaked open to both sides, and the exquisite garden scene inside was immediately presented to everyone. Click! The door lock opened. Wendy was stunned. Harold and his parents were all dumbfounded. Claire also held her breath, rubbed her eyes vigorously with her hand, and looked forward. In the garden, there is a magnificent and spacious luxury villa in the middle of the garden with pavilions, flowers, and trees. This is too luxurious, right? Noah Wilson was the first to recover and exclaimed in shock. Harold's expression was very ugly, and he said angrily, "Who would give you such a good villa? I don't believe it." "You can't help it if you don't believe it, but this villa is indeed given to me." Charlie was too lazy to explain. Wendy glared at Charlie fiercely, hum with anger, and said sourly, "Charlie, are you worthy of such an expensive villa?" Charlie smiled and said, "It has nothing to do with you." The crowd was silent in the open space at the gate of the villa. No one could think that the owner of the most expensive villa in Oris Hill was actually Charlie. Wendy and Noah were even more unacceptable of this reality, as if they were slapped in public, wishing to dig a hole in and bury themselves. The facts are breaking down. At this moment, an old master walked out of the villa. The old master came directly to Charlie and asked respectfully, "Hello, are you Mr. Charlie Wade?" Charlie nodded and said, "I am. Who are you?" The old master said, "Hello, Mr. Charlie, I am Mr. White's housekeeper, and I am responsible for taking care of this villa. You can call me Lebo. I usually take care of the villa and maintain hygiene." Lebo. Wendy on the side stared at him dumbfounded, her whole brain short-circuited. This Uncle Lebo, isn't this her fiancé Gerald's housekeeper? Why is he here? Does this villa belong to the White family? In that case, why give it to Charlie? Wendy hurriedly asked, "Lebo, what is going on? Is this villa owned by the White family?" Lebo said, "It used to be, but now it belongs to Mr. Charlie." With that, Lebo looked at Charlie again and asked, "Mr. Charlie, the decoration in the villa has not been completed yet. When do you plan to move in? I will let the workers do it faster and make preparations in advance." Charlie said faintly, "We will not move for the time being. You will continue to look after the villa. I will call you before I move." "Yes, Mr. Charlie." After Lebo finished speaking, he bowed to Charlie again, then led him aside, waiting for him to enter. Wendy's eyes almost popped out, and the whole group of Wilson family relatives was also surprised. "The housekeeper of the White family?" Wendy said dumbfounded, "Which White family is Gerald's family?" Charlie looked at her, smiled slightly, and said, "Yes, it's your fiancé Gerald's house. His father gave me this house." "What?" Wendy's brain exploded. This villa belongs to her fiancé's family? In other words, the original villa could have been hers in the future? But why would it be given to Charlie? "This is my villa." Wendy's parents were also very puzzled and angry at the same time. The White family is the daughter's future husband's family. The White family's villa is naturally for their daughter. Why is it given to Charlie? This is not logical. Horiachien blurted out and asked Wendy, "Wendy, what's the matter with this? Do you know the White family villa?" Wendy shook her head repeatedly, "I don't know, I have never heard Gerald talk about it." Horiachien immediately shouted, "Quickly call Gerald and ask. Ask clearly what's going on." "Yes, I must." Wendy immediately took out the phone and called Gerald. As soon as the call connected, she asked Gerald, "Gerald, does your family have a villa in Thompson?" Gerald said, "There is a set, what's wrong?" Wendy said with some dissatisfaction, "Why haven't you heard about it? Is it the wedding room for the two of us?" "No," Gerald said, "my uncle bought that villa for the elderly. He prefers the environment of Thompson, so how could he be willing to use it for us?" After speaking, Gerald asked again, "How do you know about this?" Wendy's aggrieved tears flowed out. "Do you know, your uncle gave away this villa." "Gave it away?" Gerald blurted out, "Who gave it away?" Wendy broke down and cried and said, "Gave it to Charlie. It's my rubbish brother-in-law Charlie." Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.